All right, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to In Liberty and Health. I was supposed to have a guest today, but after dealing with a media company that had him, or he, I don't know who, I won't say the guest name. I was very excited to talk to him originally, but after the media company asked me to reschedule 3 times, um, not going to do it. I'm sorry. So if you want to be on the show, feel free to reach out to me. Maybe we could set it up if I think you're the right fit, if I think we would have something interesting to talk about. But um, as far as these media companies, I don't want to work with you anymore. It's annoying. You send me AI slop of paragraph after paragraph after paragraph about how you allegedly enjoyed my show, even though I know you didn't listen. That's fine, whatever. Anyways, I don't want to rant and rave about stupid media companies anymore. We are here today to talk about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Hit on it a little bit last week with Ryan Mata, and we talked about it a little bit on 5 till midnight. But I figured I would give my commentary on it, explain where I'm at. I got the Gray Zone articles pulled up, and we're going to walk through those. Talk about wider implications and how I kind of see reactions from everybody on this. So it feels kind of weird podcasting by myself because I feel like I haven't done it in a while ever since we brought our little girl home. I've been very, very busy. Obviously, I'm sure that's no surprise to anybody. But also, I don't do the Sunday coffee podcast once again. I'm busy, and I just try to do one show a week now. That's a consistent pace for me. So that is that. Eddie, Alex, good to see both yins. I guess while I'm also here right in the beginning, please make sure you go to all the links below where you can find all the wonderful supplements you see behind me. TigerFitness.com. Use code Kyle at checkout, or TigerFitness.com/Kyle M, I believe it is. If not, use code Kyle at checkout. Let them know that I sent you. Please, 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 please go over to Substack. Check out the Great Megalodon. I'm just finishing up my next Substack article, and if you guys are into heavy metal, no politics, no BS over there. It's all just straight music, some guitar stuff too, but just mostly heavy metal music. So if that sounds like it tickles your fancy, please go over to the Great Megalodon on Substack and subscribe. I will be putting out my next article either tonight or tomorrow morning, and the reading time on it's about 10 minutes. But of course, the listening time is different. And if you read fast or whatever. Anyways, I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy that. So, of course, Fox and Sons Coffee, use code Kyle at checkout. And of course, one more time, please like the video if you're here right now. And also feel free to become a channel member where you could see completely unedited podcasts and of course see all of a Common Crown's live footage. Unfortunately, I didn't get footage from the show from Hinder. So once again, just feel free to become a channel member for the lowly price of $2.99 a month. With all that being said, about 3 minutes of me ranting and raving, let's get into the rest of today's show. All right, everybody, one more time, welcome back to In Liberty and Health. Hopefully everybody is doing well. There has been what seems like a lot going on, but it's more of just everybody trying to capture pieces of the world that's just moving ever so fast around us. The assassination of Charlie Kirk and really chaos as a whole. I've been thinking about this quite a bit because on Monday night I wasn't going to be on 5 till midnight because my daughter was having a little bit of an issue with gas, and anybody with kids will know that eventually that sometimes things can snowball to seemingly out of control. And in these kind of moments that I'm talking about, I promise it's going to make sense here in a second. Oh, everything's so chaotic and you don't know exactly what to do next. So, and I've heard Jordan Peterson make this point. I know, yeah, whatever you want to say about him. But in these moments, you kind of have to fixate on what's immediately in front of you and what you're going to do in the next minute. When my daughter was screaming on Monday night, I didn't know what to do. My wife and I didn't know what to do. So, this is just part of being parents. You kind of work through this stuff, you learn. We found out she just had bad gas, or at least so it seemed. So we were able to get that under control. She stopped screaming. She started eating. Everything was all right. Everything is okay. So, I know the guys at 5 to midnight when I messaged them this because we were going to go to the hospital. They're like, "Oh my god, hopefully everything's okay." Yeah, everything's fine. It's just kind of like these things that rattle you in the moment. You don't know what to do. So once again, you shorten your time horizon and you just kind of are running on instinct and you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to do next. Like when I get a engine job at my work, whenever I'm about to tear down or tear into something that's going to be somewhat of a project, right? I try to bite it in small pieces. So let's say I'm doing an engine on like a Acadia. Yeah. Yeah, and that's really how it is, at least as far as I can tell. My daughter just turned 6 weeks yesterday. And it's really not as bad as people say. At least in my opinion, it doesn't seem as bad as people say, but you are definitely learning and it's a hands-on experience for sure. Anyways, I'm actually really glad I get to do this podcast now because I haven't got to talk a lot about fatherhood because just once again I've been so busy. Um, but you don't know how to do these things next, and you're really just kind of working through it day by day by day, minute by minute, second by second. We got it all figured out, and um, everything was good. In these moments where things seem very chaotic, it's hard to project out into the future because chaos brings uncertainty. It's always kind of funny to me when you hear libertarians talk about an orderly society. I shouldn't say an orderly society, but how society would be a lot better without government. And I used to be one of these people that thought that free people can organize in a orderly and just manner that is going to lead to a prosperous outcome. I can't say I necessarily believe that anymore because we see how some people will just drive themselves completely into the ground. Does that mean we should go out of our way to intervene in their lives and, use state handouts to change the direction of their lives? No, I don't necessarily think so. If that's someone you care about, then this person that we're talking about nosediving, that person needs to be helped by the community. Okay. Why am I talking about chaos and time horizons and kind of like dealing with what's in front of you? When we're talking about big conservative personalities and the big people on what I guess you would say ostensibly is the right, I've heard a lot of our guys, Pete, Red Hawk, and the guys from the Old Glory Club refer to Charlie as a liberal. I think that's pretty fair to call him a liberal because he's not really like a full immigration restrictionist. He still supported Israel, which I know that's going to be a big topic here in this show. So brace yourselves. I'm going to piss everybody off more than likely, and I'm perfectly okay with that. I can take the slings and arrows. I'm a big boy. And he still very much so believed in democracy and talking to people to try and convince them of his ideas. These are all very liberal Western values, which generally actually are pretty good when you have a society of people who believe in a shared idea, shared identity, and you don't have all these different people, NGOs, and different organizations that are prioritizing their interests over the interests of the actual nation itself. When you shoot somebody in the neck, right? And I hope not everybody saw the close-up video because that was the first video I saw, and it is bad. It is hideous. It is horrendous. Um, you shorten your time horizon because now we realize that we don't live in the same world that we lived in prior to seeing that video and prior to Charlie Kirk being killed. Charlie was not a radical by any stretch of the imagination. And I know everybody else has belabored this point, so I'm not going to stick on this particular point for too long. He wasn't that radical. People call him a racist, Nazi, fascist, blah, 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 whatever, all the worst names you could possibly think of. He really wasn't that bad, right? He was still willing to talk to you. This is also going to kind of get into why I don't think Israel did it, which once again, we're going to cover that here in this show. Um, what that signal sends, that bullet, seeing somebody get murdered in cold blood in 4K high streaming definition for the world to see, the moderate right wing guy who Trump and JD Vance both recognize as the guy who's responsible for putting them into the White House, which I definitely think there's truth to that. He's not solely responsible, but I do think that he mobilized a lot of people to vote for Trump that were in a younger demographic that may have either been disaffected or may not have voted. The signal that sends to anybody who's further right than Kirk tells them that, like, if they think he's all those awful things, then I don't know what they think of me. And in this case, they'd rather have the devil you know than the devil you don't. As in, they're very, very concerned about how the left views them. They view them as a threat. They view them as people who shouldn't be here, metaphorically speaking. That's not good. You can't have a civilization where there is one group of people who looks at another group of people, and we're talking about a third of the country each. I know people say, "Oh, half the country." It's not that, because if you look at the general election, then it's like a third of people don't vote. So when you look at, one third, and we can maybe even break it down and say 1/6. So 1/6 of the country literally thinks that another half, or maybe let's say 1/3 of the country just shouldn't be here anymore. And when I say shouldn't be here, I'm referring to exactly what you think I'm referring to, as in not on the planet anymore. You can't have a society like that because there is no shared identity, there's no shared vision. We don't agree on these Western democratic liberal values anymore. And when you don't stand on those, then you have to figure out where to go from here. It's awful. And we really can't have a society where you have just two completely diametrically opposed groups like this. And especially now, I think the right is looking more and more into, okay, well, if the left killed the only guy who's willing to talk, then that means they don't want to talk. If they don't want to talk, then that means that we have to win. If we have to win, then that means we have to oppress these people and completely destroy their organization, completely destroy everything about them until they're no longer a threat because they're willing to kill us. That's kind of where we're at in 2025 if everybody can't just chill out. Is that what I want? No. Is that going to be necessary to at least some degree? Yeah, I honestly believe so. I believe that the NGOs that are responsible for, open borders and bringing people over here illegally, and also the arms manufacturers who are benefiting from wars and all this stuff, the lobbying, eventually these people do need to be put in they need to be put in their place in some respect and let them know that, like, we can't have a civilized society and have you running amok. This is the way that the right now interprets the left. And this is, or at least the right interprets the managerial class, the left, that the activist left, right? The Antifa, the DSA, the Democrats who are seeking to, expand the welfare state and keep open borders. This is kind of now the divide that we're at. This, I don't even want to call it a culture war anymore, but like, the country now is just constantly cranking up the heat. So if we can't kind of pull all this back, it doesn't look good going forward, because eventually people are going to run to somebody who restores order. People look at Trump that way, but he's really not. I mean, after 2020 and now we're 8 months into his presidency, he's really not that concerned about instilling order. When I look at Trump and the way that he acts, it's really kind of like, if it doesn't inconvenience him too much, he'll do it. If he could take credit for it, he'll do it. Like when I think about the foreign policy negotiations, and we're not going to talk too much about foreign policy here until we get to kind of like the Israel aspect of this. When he negotiates with Russia, him and Steve Witkoff, right? They start with non-starters, and then as soon as they get into negotiations, and then Russia says, "We're not accepting this deal. We're not accepting all these poison pills that we've told you we're not going to accept." The Trump administration throws up their hands and says they're being unreasonable. Well, you give them a bunch of non-starters. You know they're non-starters. So why would you come to the table with that anyways? To me, it's almost like you don't want to negotiate. You just want to save face and then still continue on the war. Because really, the net effect of all this is that the war continues. When it comes to the situation in Gaza, I've been told for the last 8 months, I'm just going to break with Netanyahu, Ian Carroll, and we're going to talk about him today too, laughably said that I think Trump and Miriam Adelson are fomenting a coup against Netanyahu right now. That was like 6 months ago. How's that coup going? He's still in power. So Trump isn't like a authoritarian. I don't see him that way, and I don't think he has that bone in his body. I think he's still very much so a liberal. He's a little less radical than Charlie Kirk. He doesn't want to repeal the civil rights era, which, so Charlie Kirk's credit, he did say he wanted to do. That's actually pretty based. Perhaps now I could get into maybe where I disagreed with Charlie Kirk. And if you look at my timeline, I did it just the other day. I had some harsh words for him. Do I regret those? No. Do I think I could have used a little bit more perspective in the grand scheme of things? Sure. But I don't think we should idolize people just because they're no longer with us. I think we need to be honest about where we stand, what we think, how we feel about things, and how we feel about people, whether we agree or disagree with them. What really broke my heart, honestly, was, and I can very, very much relate to this now. Charlie Kirk was on the Whatever podcast. And like when these rightoids go on the Whatever podcast, it's it's pretty much just like them yelling at women to do better, which neither here nor there. That's a topic for another show. He was talking to these women and he said, I've met with presidents, I've met with world leaders, I've done all these crazy events, flown all over the world, but nothing beats my daughter coming up to me and hugging my leg, or it was something akin to that. Like just his wildest dreams. And he was saying this in context to telling women like how important it is to have a family. And I actually largely agree with him here. That is Charlie at his very, very best, is talking about his kids and family. Do I disagree with kind of like his aspect of like all duty and no leisure for men? Sure. We're not going to litigate that here though. That hit me like a ton of bricks. It's really awful to think about it, and I think this is where um, a lot of people should go immediately. Is that two young kids are now never going to talk to their father again. I still have both my parents at 30 years old. My wife still has her parents. I lost my grandparents very, very long ago. I've gone to quite a bit of funerals in my time, and it's awful. And everybody listening to this show right now has undoubtedly been to a funeral and knows it's absolutely no fun, especially when it's somebody you know and care about. That really sucks. Now, for the people in the chat, this is probably, and I really hope it's a smaller faction. Imagine not being able to talk to your father again. I mean, that's just awful. Whatever disagreements you may have with Charlie Kirk, I don't think anybody deserves to get shot in the neck in front of their family for the whole world to see. I think we all hopefully agree with that there, despite, and I was one to say this, despite everything that he said horribly about Gaza, the Hezbollah, as I would call it, that he perpetuated, that, did kind of cement more of a narrative for consent for Israel to slaughter Palestinians. Nobody deserves to get shot in the neck like that. Let me run an ad real quick and we will keep going with today's show. All right, we're going to take a second today to chill and tell you about the show's sponsors, Tiger Fitness. Make sure you go to the link below to get all the supplements that I use day in, day out, and beyond. As I always say, you do not need supplements to become all jacked and tan or to progress in your health journey, but they could definitely be a useful tool in that respect. So, as you can see on tigerfitness.com, we got MTS Nutrition, Blackstone Labs, Ambrosia, HPN, Nutrix Research, America Labs, Alani New, Pump Chasers, there's Redcon One, Accent Sledge, plenty of different companies that pretty much have absolutely any supplement you could possibly think of: pre-workouts, fat burners, BCAAs, electrolyte mixes, you name it, it's on there. So go to Tiger Fitness through the link below. Use code Kyle at checkout to let them know that I sent you. Get your protein powder, you name it, anything that's going to help you stick to your diet and hopefully achieve your health goals. All right, thanks. Back to the show. Yes, I agree. I'd be Denmark. It's so sick that people can't talk to each other. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. And um if you've been on this channel long enough, and thank you all for subscribing, and please consider becoming a channel member for the holy price of $2.99 a month. You'll see I've talked to people all over the political spectrum, people that I have vehement disagreements with. Um, Nico House, for example, him and I disagree about some stuff. Me and that dude talked like hours, paragraphs on paragraphs about just life and family. Like I consider that dude like a brother at this point. I've been on his show. He's been on this show twice. Just one of the most stand-up dudes ever. Um, I, I had Sabrina Salvati on twice. We disagree about stuff. Still welcome to come on here. Pete and Red Hawk, I disagree with them on stuff too. They had me on the old Glory Club. I've had them both on the show multiple times, and they're welcome on anytime. So, I, um, yeah, just you got to be able to talk to people. We can't have a civilization where we just don't engage in dialogue and debate with people. So, let me, I'm going to go through some of the stuff that I've posted and kind of give some more details around this. Let me pull this up, share screen. So in all fairness, did not watch this video, but I wanted to respond to it. Um, this is just let's listen to this and we will kind of talk about it accordingly.
He did not like Bibi Netanyahu, and he said that to me many times, and he said it to people around him many times. He felt that Bibi Netanyahu was a very destructive force. He was appalled by what was happening in Gaza. He was, above all, resentful that he believed Netanyahu was using the United States to prosecute his wars for the benefit of his country, and that it was shameful and embarrassing and bad for the United States, and he resented it. Didn't hate Netanyahu. He wasn't out there with a placard saying that, but he certainly expressed that to me and a lot of other people. And there's no question that Bibi's defenders on the internet will call me a liar or a kook, but that's a fact. And enough text messages exist that I think it can probably be verified in pretty short order. Not that it needs to be, because that is true.
So I have laid out my skepticism with Tucker plenty of times now. I don't think you guys need to hear me go into too much detail with that. But in response to Tucker, I said, can we just cut the bullshit for once? And this is just a clip shared from Chris Menahan. Can we just cut the bullshit for once? Charlie perpetrated a lot of the Israeli talking points about the Palestinians in Gaza. That does not mean he deserved to be killed in cold blood. Getting killed in cold blood also doesn't mean we whitewash everything someone has said or done. This isn't hard. This is why I don't believe Israel did it. People can fight me on this all they want, but I'm just telling you the way that I see things. Open source intel. We're going to play this video here in a second. Charlie Kirk, I used to say, hey, you as a gay person would go to Gaza and they would throw you off the buildings. Or they throw you off a tall building, right? Yeah, they spelled this wrong. Now they don't have any tall buildings left. Maybe don't kill Jews, stupid Muslims. This video, Misty Winston and I kind of really went hard on when I was on Due Dissidents. This is Charlie Kirk having a rabbi on to explain that Israel's not starving Gazans, which, come on. we all know is the truth, that Israel is starving Gazans and that they're shooting Palestinians when they go to get aid. Oh, sorry. Israel says, and this is in reference to Kafir and Ariel Bibas. Israel says Hamas beat the baby hostages of Ariel and Kafir Bibas with their bare hands. This is likely the truth. Israeli forensic and analysts say there's no proof that a bombing caused their death. Hamas is death cult fixated on the elimination of all Jews. February 2025. And by the way, Israel's not starving Gazans. July 28th, 2025. My understanding of the Bibas situation is that actually they were bombed. They were killed by a bomb from the Israelis. And of course, for the usual Hezbollah, if Israel laid down its weapons, it would be conquered. This young man is one of the rare ones to admit Hamas in the Arab world's ultimate goal, the full conquest of the West and subjugation of Jews. If they want to do that, why don't they? I'm not saying that like there aren't nefarious, Arabs, Muslims, nefarious parts of Islam that want to take over the world. There probably are. In fact, there definitely are. Do they actually pose a threat to the West? Let's get real, guys. We've killed millions. The West has killed millions of them over the last just 30 years alone. If they were really some threat, they wouldn't allow that to happen, right? Let me pull up this now, share this tab instead. So we're going to listen to a video. I don't know exactly where this conference was.
So, it's funny.
But,
I used to say that, hey,
that
if you as a gay person.
So
it's funny.
We're going to watch it.
There
we go. And I'm making fun of people who are saying that Charlie's about to turn on Israel. I'm not seeing the proof. I've heard that there were some text messages, but you gotta come clean with the texts. Dave texts weren't exactly exonerating of people's claims of Israel did it. So I'm gonna play this clip, and you tell me if he seemed like he's about to turn on Israel.
Oh, it's funny. I used to say that, hey, if you as a gay person would go to Gaza, they'd throw you off of tall buildings, right? Now they don't have any tall buildings left, so I don't.
When you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Is that too soon? I'm sorry. Maybe you shouldn't kill Jews, stupid Muslims.
To me, he seems pretty convicted here.
I like that.
Where was I?
And let's do one more clip. I'll see how. Yeah, we'll just play the whole damn thing.
Let me ask you: in the conflict of Israel versus Hamas, who's the good guy?
I believe both Hamas and the Israeli government are evil, but I think also that there is no justification.
Are they equally?
There is no justification for the murder and mutilation of.
If I were in this guy's shoes, I would have said the Israelis. I'm sorry, not the Israelis are the good guys, but Hamas are the good guys. When you look at the pure amount of death that the IDF has caused, I'm sorry, if you're asking me to pick in a binary, yes, the Hamas are the good guys. Do I think that makes all their actions good? No, absolutely not. But also, they haven't killed upwards of 60,000 people and purposefully starve people and shoot people running for aid.
Thousands of innocent people and children.
Let's
futile.
Let's zero in.
There is no justification, Mr. Kirk, for invading hospitals, for bombing innocent populations, and dragging out a war which is damaging Israel and the West.
You've made that point, but
it's not a point; it's a moral truth, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. It was also a moral truth that the war started because 1,300 Jews were killed and 200 were taken hostage. And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction. Let me finish. I let you talk. Israel, at its holiest day of the calendar year, besides Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, Samat Torah, the 50-year anniversary of the Six-Day War.
Notice how he has all this stuff memorized by heart. I'm sorry, I just can't say he was turning on
On
Israel.
Shabbat, Hamas invaded Israel, deciding to go recklessly to music concerts, to homes, to kibbutzes, and taking 200 plus hostages. They knew what they were doing. In one of the most cloistered urban environments on the planet, 2 million people live in a place where it's impossible to wage war. Impossible. Where they wear civilian clothing, they violate every tenet of the Geneva Convention, and the IDF, when they do something right, they get no credit. When they do life-saving surgeries of a Gazan child, they get no credit. When they drop leaflets, they get no credit. But when they happen to bomb a...
Can I just say, like, this leaflet talking point is so tired to me. If I drop a leaflet on your house and you don't see it, or it just says, if you're still here in a half hour, your house is going to be gone. Does that make it right? No. Nobody would recognize that as right. As far as Gazans getting surgery from IDF soldiers, I've never heard that. Could it have happened? Sure, maybe. But who's creating all those Gazans? And according to the Gaza Health Ministry, there's plenty of kids going in there that have been shot repeatedly in the same place that indicate the IDF is indeed targeting children. Anyways.
Place where they are operating their military from, which we now know from third-party verified sources, hundreds of Hamas military operations are in mosques, schools, and hospitals. I'm sorry, the country that where they were living in relative peace on October 6th, that all of a sudden we had a war and Hamas started the war. And I don't see people that were really upset about the 2 million Germans that were killed in World War II, civilians. A tragic truth of war is that civilians die. I don't like it and you don't like it. And they brought it upon themselves. The only operation and entity to blame is the leadership of Hamas, not the Israeli government, for fighting this defensive war after they were in.
See, so this whole idea that, like, you can just pin all the blame on Hamas, just, to me, it's never washed either, because you're responsible for what you do. You, like, if, I don't know really like a good analogy for it, but Dave Smith often makes a comparison that if someone had told the police that they were hiding in an elementary school with hostages, and they said, "Oh, we have no other choice but to blow up the school," everybody would universally recognize that as like, you can't do that. You're going to kill more than, just your target. You're going to kill tons of kids. Just because allegedly Hamas started the war, which really we know this isn't, the start of a war. This is an ongoing struggle. That doesn't justify every action you do in response. I think most people would agree that, like, the individuals responsible for October 7th that did perpetrate what are, definitionally war crimes, holding those people to account, that's fair game. If you organized a group to actively harm or kill people, then yeah, you should be held responsible for that. You're kind of a military target at that point. But to say that, like, all the civilian infrastructure and people and tents and maternity wards and hospitals are all fair game, no. Alex Patini, I disagree with you here. They're willing to negotiate, and they have plenty of times, but every single time Israel usually ends up blowing up the deal. You could look back at the last couple ceasefires, even the returning of the one hostage earlier this year, which, much to Trump's credit, they did get an American-Israeli out. That was part of the ceasefire deal, and then immediately Israel had broke that ceasefire. Pretty much every single ceasefire that Israel gets into, they usually are the ones to break it. And when people talk about, the hostages from Israel, first of all, Israel has killed a lot of the hostages. And not only that, there's thousands of Palestinian hostages that are being kept. It's awful. But that's not really the topic of the show.
Invaded. There is a good guy and there is a bad guy. I honestly,
Isn't that the morality of a child?
well, instead, hold on.
So there's that. Suffice all that to say, I do not believe that he was having sincere change of thought on this. There's just no public evidence, and I know people say, oh, he was privately based. I've yet to see a lot of evidence that people do that. And if they don't, then like, why aren't you public about the things that you think if you think it's going to make a difference? Especially if it matters. I don't know, man. I just don't have it in me to lie publicly. What you're getting from me right now is the unbridled truth the way that I see it. If I get something wrong, then okay, apologies. I'll issue a correction. I have no problem doing that. If if I say something that isn't the truth, then it was the truth at the time that I saw it. I don't lie. I don't have it in me to do that. Let me go back over to this. And this is getting more into why I think Ian Carroll's lost all credibility. So mark the date here. 1 a.m., September 7th, 2025. Charlie Kirk had said Jesus died or Jesus defeated death so you could live. And Ian Carroll replied, and you've dedicated your life to serving the people who killed him. This is obviously a reference to him saying that Charlie Kirk serves Israel, which is fine. I generally believe that too, because after October 7th, he was on the Patrick Bet David show and asked some reasonable questions. Immediately afterwards, he's posting videos of he posts a whole video apology from his show. He goes on a whole campaign, basically an apology tour for Israel, and then literally posts videos of him debating students on the Talmud. A little weird to say the least. All right, next cut. Yesterday was a turning point. Literally 4 days later. Yesterday was a turning point for U.S.-Israel relations. Less than 24 hours and the internet already figured out who the most likely culprit was. He was their friend. He dedicated his life to them, and they murdered him in front of his family. Israel just shot themselves. You could say he's being a little wishy-washy. He's not, saying Israel did it, but the main implication here is saying that Israel's the most likely culprit. Based on what evidence? The evidence everybody is using is a couple podcast clips where he says he feels like he can't criticize Israel. And then we're going off of a InfoWars host. A secondhand hearsay statement from an InfoWars host to say that Charlie Kirk allegedly felt like he would be killed if he criticized Israel. And then there's more than enough sources now that I do feel comfortable saying that it's probably true that he felt some pressure from some lobbyists who were probably there on behalf of Israel and the Republican Party's interests in Israel. Does that mean they're going to put a bullet through a man's neck in 4K? No. We don't have evidence that they were even planning that. There's circumstantial evidence and some hearsay statements to suggest that he was coming under some scrutiny. If you were as big of a, Israel supporters, Kirk, and then you started changing your tone a little bit, and you were a very effective college organizer, getting people out to vote for Republicans, I can understand why they see him as a threat, but he was still very much so in the mind of trying to pull people back into the pro-Israel fold. I just don't see the argument for Israel killing him, especially when everybody who comes after Charlie Kirk is going to be worse on Israel from Israel's perspective. They're going to be much more of an isolationist. They're going to be very, very much so more anti-Israel. The people who fill Charlie Kirk's shoes aren't going to be their friends anymore. So why would you shoot the dude that was trying to pull all the radicals back in? Doesn't make sense to me. People could say once again, he was about to turn publicly, but I'm sorry, I don't see it. So let's go into the Gray Zone article. Now I like Max, I like Anya. I trust them. I think they did their due diligence here. I think they were fair in their reporting, and I think they were trying to get clicks with the title of these two articles that we're going to read. But I think they were actually fair in their covering. I do think Max is laying it on a bit thick in some interviews that he's done where he said Charlie and Donald Trump, of all people, were scared of Israel. But let's just read the article. Charlie Kirk refused Netanyahu funding offer and was frightened by pro-Israel forces before death, friend reveals. A Trump insider and longtime friend of Charlie Kirk tells the Gray Zone how the assassinated conservative leader's turning point on Israeli influence provoked a private backlash from Netanyahu's allies that left him angry and afraid. The source said anxiety spread within the Trump administration after an apparent Israeli spying operation was uncovered. Charlie Kirk rejected an offer earlier this year from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to arrange a massive new infusion of Zionist money into his Turning Point USA organization, America's largest conservative youth association, according to longtime friend of the same commentator speaking on the condition of anonymity. Now, once again, we're talking about an anonymous source. Does that mean you should trust it, not trust it? You make your own decision. The source told the Gray Zone that the late pro-Trump influencer believed Netanyahu was trying to cow him into silence as he began to publicly question Israel's overwhelming influence in Washington and demanded more space to criticize it. In the weeks leading up to his September 10th assassination, Kirk had come to loathe the Israeli leader, regarding him as a bully. The source said Kirk was disgusted by what he witnessed inside the Trump administration, where Netanyahu sought to personally dictate the president's personnel decisions and weaponize Israeli assets like a billionaire donor, Mary Matelson, to keep the White House firmly under its thumb. You ask me, or you tell me, everybody who's watching this show, if Trump seemed like he felt like he was under pressure, or if he was a willing accomplice in all this. According to Kirk's friend, who also enjoyed access to President Donald Trump and his inner circle, Kirk strongly warned Trump last June against bombing Iran on Israel's behalf. Charlie was the only person who did that, they said, recalling how Trump barked at him in response and angrily shut down the conversation. The source believes the incident confirmed in Kirk's mind that the president of the United States had fallen under the control of malign foreign power and was leading his own country to a series of disastrous conflicts. Agree with the latter half, do not agree with the first half. Trump pretty much campaigned on bombing Iran. He said many times throughout the campaign that they can't have a nuke. He'll bomb major cities in Tehran. That, it was the greatest thing ever that he killed Soleimani. None of this stuff was really, at least in my opinion, that much of a surprise that he went out and bombed Iran. And then on top of that, Charlie had pretty much endorsed the bombing of Iran. So you could say he said this privately. I'm sorry. Why would you fight against that privately, but then come out publicly and endorse it? If he didn't say anything about it, I might believe this. But when you come out and endorse it publicly, I'm sorry. I don't believe that you were pushing against it privately. If you were, then it just makes you look like a bitch. I'm sorry. If you publicly endorse something when you privately were against it, how am I supposed to trust you? By the following month, Kirk had become the target of a sustained private campaign of intimidation and free-floating fury by wealthy and powerful allies of Netanyahu. Figures he described in an interview as Jewish leaders and stakeholders. He was afraid of them, the source emphasized. At Turning Point USA, the rift with Israel widens. Kirk was 18 years old when he launched TPUSA in 2012. From its inception, his career was propelled by Zionist donors who showered his young organization with money through the neoconservative outfits like the David Horowitz Freedom Center. He repaid his wealthy backers over the years by unleashing a relentless firehouse of anti-Palestinian and Islamophobic diatribes, accepting propaganda trips to Israel, and sternly shutting down nationalist forces challenging his support for Israel during TPUSA events. In the Trump era, few American Gentiles had proved more valuable to the self-proclaimed Jewish state than Charlie Kirk. But as Israel's genocidal assault on the besieged Gaza Strip drove an unprecedented backlash within grassroots right-wing circles, where only 24% of younger Republicans now sympathize with Israel over the Palestinians, Kirk began to shift. So they said. At times, he toed the Israeli line, spreading disinformation about babies beheaded by Hamas on October 7th, which he did. and denying the famine imposed on the population of Gaza, which he did, yet he simultaneously ceded to his base, wondering a lot if Jeffrey Epstein was an Israeli intelligence asset, questioning whether the Israeli government allowed October 7th attacks to proceed in order to advance long-term political goals, and parroting narratives familiar to his most vociferous critic on the right, streamer Nick Fuentes. This July, TPUSA Student Action Summit, Kirk provided a forum for the right-wing grassroots to vent its fury about Israel's political hammerlock on the Trump administration. There, speakers from former Fox News stalwarts Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly to the anti-Zionist Jewish comedian Dave Smith denounced Israel's blood-soaked assault on the besieged Gaza Strip, branded Jeffrey Epstein as an Israeli intelligence asset, and openly taunted Zionist billionaires like Bill Ackman for getting away with scams despite having no actual skills. It's just a clip of Tucker talking about that. Following the confab, Kirk was bombarded with infuriated text messages and phone calls from Netanyahu's wealthy allies in the U.S., including many who had funded TPUSA. According to his longtime friend, the Zionist owners treated Kirk with outright contempt, essentially ordering him to fall back in line. He was being told what you're not allowed to do, and is driving him crazy. And I do think this much is true. Kirk's friend recalled, the conservative youth leader was not only alienated by the hostile nature of the interactions, but frightened by the backlash. The friend's account dovetails with those of multiple right-wing commentators with access to Kirk. To kind of put a little bit of a point in this, I do think Kirk was really trying to make the best of all worlds and make everybody happy. And for the most part, I think everybody here listening probably knows if you try to make everybody happy, you're probably going to make nobody happy. So in the end, he wanted to have people like Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson on to have the anti-Zionist, anti-Israel perspective out there. But he also wanted to accept the money from the Jewish and neoconservative funders and still carry the pro-Israel line. Eventually, you find out you can't do both, and both sides will hate you if you don't pick one over the other. I think in the end, Charlie was going through a spiritual transformation. Candace Owens, a conservative influencer, shifted decisively against Israel after October 7th, reflected after her friend's killing. I know it. He was going through a lot. There was a lot of pressure, and it's hard for me to watch the people pressuring him just say things that they're saying. She continued, they want him to lose everything for changing or even slightly modifying an opinion. It's very hurtful to me. And speaking of Candace Owens, she claims to have all these text messages and information. I'm sorry. It looks like bullshit if you're just going to keep dragging this out. It looks like you're just doing this for content if you're not going to just publish the text messages or show your information. I don't believe you when you sit here and just dangle over people's heads and tell them that you're going to release it one of these days. Do it, or as most people say, shit or get off the pot. Kirk appeared visibly outraged during an August 6th interview where host Megyn Kelly, with conservative host Megyn Kelly, as he discussed menacing messages he was receiving from pro-Israel bigwigs. It's all of a sudden, oh, he's no longer with us. Wait a second. What does with us mean exactly? I'm an American, okay? I represent this country, he explained, before addressing the powerful Zionist interests harassing him. The more that you guys privately and publicly call our character into question, which is not isolated, it would be one thing if it was just one text or two texts. It is dozens of texts. Then we start to say, whoa, hold the boat here. To be fair, some really good Jewish friends say that's not all of us, but these leaders are here. These are stakeholders. He went on to complain to Kelly, I have less ability to criticize the Israeli government than actual Israelis do. And that's really, really weird. And he's right. But he still carried water for him. He went on to complain to Kelly, I have less ability to criticize the Israeli government. Oh, I'm sorry. In one of his final interviews conducted with Israel's premier influencer in the United States, Ben Shapiro, Kirk once again tried to raise the issue of censorship of Israel critics. A friend said to me, interestingly, Charlie, okay, we've pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border. Kirk told Shapiro on September 9th. Maybe we should also ask the question, is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question. According to Kirk's longtime friend, Kirk's resentment of Netanyahu in the Israel lobby was spreading within Trump's inner circle. In fact, they said the president himself was terrified of Netanyahu's wrath and feared the consequences of defying him. I don't believe this. During the past year, the Trump insider was told by contacts in the White House that the Secret Service had caught Israeli government personnel placing electronic devices on its emergency response vehicles on 2 separate occasions. While the Gray Zone was unable to confirm the story with the Secret Service or the White House, such an incident would not have been unprecedented. Indeed, according to a report in Politico citing 3 former senior U.S. officials, a cell phone spying device was placed by Israeli agents near the White House and other sensitive locations around Washington toward the end of Trump's first term in 2019. Former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson recounted a similar incident in his memorial, writing that his security team found a listening device in his bathroom soon after Netanyahu used his personal toilet, which is very, very funny. I'm surprised they just didn't put a pager there. JC, good to see you. Ox Patina, I hate to say it, but if it's true that she has the evidence, Candace Owens, she'd be better off publishing everything before she gets a pew pew, a hole punch assistance in her person or a car accident. Because if the other side knew for sure that she has evidence, then she would be afraid to even talk about it. And this is my thing, and this is also why I don't believe Israel did it, because like, why wouldn't they go after Candace Owens? Candace has been going pretty viral recently, and her anti-Israel stuff, people really like it. Why have they not said a word to her or gone after her? Why haven't they gone after Tucker Carlson, who himself, don't ask me, ask him. Nothing is better than a lunch in Tel Aviv. I love Israel. I've taken my family on vacation to Israel. All things Tucker Carlson has said. Why haven't they gone after him? You could say they're not as influential as Charlie Kirk and don't have the organizing power, but I'm sorry. Just saying, it doesn't wash for me. So this I want to highlight the Israel did it theory. So this is where they're I think going out on a little bit of a limb, even though I think they were fair about their reporting. Kirk was killed September 10th with a single shot fired by a sniper apparently positioned on a rooftop 200 meters away. He was shot while seated before a crowd of thousands at the Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, on the first leg of his American comeback tour. The scene of Kirk collapsing and the impact of the gunshot to his neck, just as he began answering a question about transgender mass shooters, was perhaps the most shockingly vivid spectacle of an assassination, certainly the most viral in human history. There is currently no evidence of an Israeli government role in Kirk's assassination. I like that they put this here, but that probably needs to be highlighted. However, that does not stop thousands of social media users from speculating that the pro-Trump operative's shifting views on the issue contributed in some way to his death. By the time of publication, over 100,000 Twitter users have liked a September 11th post by libertarian influencer Ian Carroll declaring about Kirk. He was their friend. He basically dedicated his life to them, and they murdered him in front of his family. Israel just shot themselves. I showed that post earlier. Many advancing unsubstantiated theory have pointed to a Twitter X post by Harrison Smith, a personality at the pro-Trump InfoWars network, stating on August 13th, almost a month before Kirk's assassination, that he was told by someone close to Kirk that Kirk thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against Israel. The frenzied speculation has set off a shockwave in Tel Aviv, where Netanyahu was compelled to explicitly deny that his government killed Kirk in a September 11th interview with Newsmax. We'll play this real quick.
Before I let you go, I want you to address one thing, it's just the absurdity of it. Some of the internet rumors that somehow Israel is behind the Charlie Kirk murder, and I don't believe it for 1 second, but I want you to make a statement. It's so absurd.
What's wrong with this lady's face?
That's insane. Israel also changes the orbit of the moon. Israel pushes the sun. I mean, the whole thing is. It's not only insane, I think it's so absurd, so stupid, and so ridiculous. You can't believe that people are saying that. They just found the perpetrator. They'll get to the bottom of this. But
we don't need to watch the rest of that video, but basically, when they deny it, I get why people are saying this. Netanyahu and his allies bury the Kirk crisis of Big Tent collapses. That appearance was just one of several interviews and statements the prime minister dedicated to Kirk in the wake of his killing, in an effort to frame the late conservative leader's legacy in a uniformly pro-Israel light. The major public relations push has occurred while Netanyahu waged a military campaign on 7 fronts, punctuated by a regional assassination spree that most recently reached into the heart of Qatar, a U.S. ally. I don't think. Okay, so some of this isn't all that important. Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking the truth and defending freedom, a lion-hearted friend of Israel. He fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization. I spoke to him only 2 weeks ago and invited him to Israel. Sadly, that visit will not take place. I think we could probably wrap up the article here. You guys can go check this out on the Gray Zone. I think I'm going to get ready to wrap it up here. I've been going for almost an hour. So, what I also liked about the Gray Zone article, they do mention this, that there are some people saying that Kirk declined the visit to Israel, and then the pro-Israel people are saying that he accepted the visit. The Gray Zone was good in this respect, and they said that they don't know. I haven't seen proof one way or the other, so I don't know. If I'm being honest, it does seem like radical leftists that went in, organized, and did take out Charlie Kirk. I remember when Trump was shot at last year in, just 45 minutes away from here. The people at the event immediately turned and said, "This is on the press." And for the most part, I have to agree. When you call an entire group of people fascists, Nazis, bigots, just the worst names as we understand them today in Western society, I think that begets violence eventually, because we're always told that speech is silence, silence is complicity. We're constantly playing this game of what language actually means. And they're telling us constantly that, words are violence. Well, if words are violence and Charlie Kirk is a fascist, bigot, Nazi, whatever you want to say, then I think that leads some people in their mind to believe that, okay, well, what do we do with Nazis? We put them down. What do we do with fascists? We put them down. What do we do with, eventually it gets to the point, what do you do with mainstream Republicans? You put them down. What do you do with libertarians eventually? You put them down. Just some things to think about. I am skeptical of the FBI narrative, if I'm being completely honest, because the text messages that they laid out in the page, which I should have had that pulled up. I'm sorry I didn't. Why would someone basically explain the crime that they did, how they did it, where they left it, all in like a couple texts? To me, a little too convenient. And I don't trust Kash Patel. And I don't think you guys should either. Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, and Donald Trump have all really made a fucking mess of this thing. Trump's threw out some AI slop with an Israeli flag behind Charlie Kirk, and he's hugging him, and it has some, Hebrew saying underneath it. He hasn't really said a lot about it publicly. I guess there was an interview where he said something about how he felt super close to Charlie Kirk. I don't know. Some people said his reaction was really good. Trump's reaction, that is. And Pam Bondi has just been an absolute disaster talking about hate speech. We're going to go after right-wing and left-wing people for hate speech. Like, what is this, fucking 2017 on Twitter? Come on, guys. So if I'm being honest, I think it is a radical leftist who just got driven crazy by the media and got into an online echo chamber with a bunch of people through the Discord servers that he allegedly was in, and decided that this is a rightful action to take. I think that's the same thing with Thomas Crooks. I don't think that's that far-fetched of a theory. As this white-hot culture war gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and as people's lives get worse and worse and worse, it's harder to have a family. It's harder to afford a house. It's harder to afford to go to school. It's harder to do everything here in America. People want to take more and more drastic measures to make themselves feel secure, or to perhaps usher in better times. Sometimes they think that better times is only going to be realized through putting a bullet through someone's neck or putting a bullet through somebody's head. I am not endorsing that. I don't think that's right. Other people disagree who have serious issues. They're seriously evil if you think this is the way forward is to kill your political opponents. It's not right. Shouldn't do it. No matter where you stand on Charlie Kirk, I definitely went hard at the guy for the longest time. But once again, I'll say it a million times. The dude did not deserve to get shot in the neck in 4K right in front of his family. Absolutely horrible. So I think that's about all I wanted to cover on today's show. If you guys have any last minute questions while I'm doing plugs, feel free to drop them. Leave a super chat if you'd be so kind. I'd greatly appreciate it. Go check out the Great Megalodon on Substack. I will give you guys a quick sneak peek of what I'm doing. Let me go up to the top here and show you guys what I'm doing on Substack. Oh, no, that's the wrong screen. That's the Gray Zone article. Bam. There Was a Light Here album review. Guys should definitely go check out Substack. This will be hitting your inboxes if you're subscribed either tonight or tomorrow. I want to play guitar and also really want to finish this. So I will be airing that here soon. If not, I'm going to record a Patreon episode for 5 Till Midnight. So make sure you go over to the 5 Till Midnight YouTube channel and subscribe over there as well. And if you'd be so kind over there, support us there as well. A Common Crown has new music coming soon. I'll be going back into the studio eventually. I don't know exactly when. Jen scheduled her vocals. I'm super excited to kind of get this stuff on the road. Just lots of good stuff coming out of A Common Crown. So just lots of good news all around. Personally, the political landscape is pretty rough, but everybody keep your heads up out there. Stay healthy. Stay happy. Give the people you love around you some more time, attention. Call somebody that you care about. All that good stuff. I really appreciate everybody tuning in today. One more time, hit a like on the way out. Leave a comment if you could. Keep this show going in the algorithm. It'd mean a lot to me. If you're listening on the audio podcatchers, then please leave a thumbs up or review. Whatever you can do to help me out, I greatly appreciate it. And I think with that, we're going to call our stream, guys. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. And until next time,